Good afternoon. I hope everybody's feeling well today. My name is Dr. Jarvis Hall. I teach in the Department of Political Science at the North Carolina Central University. I also work with a group on campus called the Civic Engagement Working Group. And one of the things that we do with the Civic Engagement Working Group is we try to provide our students as well as other voters with good information so when they go to cast their votes during this election period, and as we know, early voting is going on now until October the 31st, and Election Day is November 3rd. And so today we want to talk about the importance of voting the entire ballot. Voting the entire ballot. Because what you need to know, of course, is that yes, we need to pay attention to those offices at the national level, like the president and the Senate, but we also need to pay attention to offices that are being contested at the state level as well as the local level. And so we're fortunate today to have two activist members of the campus who will help us to understand why it's important to vote the entire ballot. And so we're happy to have with us first Anaya Hairston, who is very active with PACE and the SGA, as well as the Civic Engagement Working Group, and Jasmine Abney, who is also working with PACE and the Civic Engagement Working Group. We're going to start with Anaya. Anaya, tell us a little bit about PACE and a little bit about how you got involved and why you got involved in this kind of work.
Well, good afternoon, Dr. Hall, and thank you for having me here. First of all, again, my name is Anaya Hairston, and I am a junior political science student at North Carolina Central University. I also serve as one of the co-chairs for the Political Action and Civic Engagement Committee of SGA. And a little bit about what PACE does. Our goal is really to empower our students to exercise their rights, uplift their voices, and uplift their communities through civic engagement. And additionally, I serve as student chair for the Student Empowerment Subcommittee of the Civic Engagement Working Group. And a little bit about how I got involved with civic engagement was back in high school when I started to, do research on issues that I was really passionate about and wanted answers to. And I saw how much of a role that government and policies play into that. And once I realized that, I realized the significance of voting and that civic engagement really goes beyond, just voting, and it goes into holding our officials accountable, doing community service, and educating our peers. So that's a little bit how I got involved.
Okay, thank you, Anaya. Jasmine, same question.
Good afternoon. I am Jasmine Abney, a junior political science and mass communication student from Charlotte, North Carolina. I serve alongside Anaya as co-chair of the Political Action and Civic Engagement Committee of Student Government Association. With the Civic Engagement Working Group, I do serve as chair of the Committee Outreach Subcommittee. And a lot of the work that we do is about institutionalizing civic engagement, right? It's about going beyond the ballot box and making sure that we're making a real impact. And the Civic Engagement Working Group is a little bit broader. It's not only focused on students, it's also focused on our community, ensuring that Durham residents and North Carolina residents across the state are able to vote. They have access to educational resources to cast informed ballots and opportunities to get involved.
So ladies, we're certainly happy to have you here, and thank you for participating in this very important conversation. So we know we are voting for president. We know we're voting for vice president, maybe for the Senate. But when we look at vote totals, when we have presidential elections, what we see is there's a lot of votes at the top for president and for vice president and for some of the higher offices. But then as we look down at the ballot in terms of vote totals, that's where we see a drop-off. A lot of people just don't vote because they don't know of the importance of these other positions. So as a part of this conversation, we're just going to talk very briefly about why it is so important to, one, to know what these other positions are, but also why it's important to vote for them. So let's start with you, Anaya. In terms of North Carolina, what else is at the top of the ticket in terms of the U.S. Senate as well as the House of Representatives?
Yes, so one of the big things that's on the ballot is the voting for the Senate. And the Senate is a part of the legislative branch of government, and it is one of the two chambers of the United States Congress. Now, currently there are 4 candidates running for, there's 1 vacancy that we have. Each state has 2 senators that they have. And the role of these senators is they have the power to impeach government officials. They have the power to approve and reject appointees as well as treaties. They can delay and block certain legislation, and they have the ability to conduct investigations, among many other things. So that's a little bit about what the Senate does and why they're so important. And then we move on to the House of Representatives. And now the House of Representatives, they make up the second chamber of the United States Congress, and they have 435 elected members, and each state has a certain number of representatives based upon their population. Now, currently, North Carolina has 13 representatives, and each district has the opportunity to select and elect a representative who will serve for 2 years. And now some of the roles of those representatives is to introduce bills and resolutions to the House, offer amendments, and serve on different committees throughout the House. So that's a little bit about what the House of Representatives and Senate does and how they play a role in our daily lives.
Okay, thank you, Anaya. So, Jasmine, what's going on at the state level in terms of the top executive at the state level as well as the legislature at the state level?
So here in North Carolina, the head of our executive currently is the governor. So the governor serves as the head of our state militia, as the commander-in-chief of the state, if you will. He also presides over our state budget. So though he does not necessarily work directly on it, he does preside over all the issues of the state. He also is the head of both his cabinet and the counselors of state. The North Carolina General Assembly is our version of Congress, right? So the North Carolina General Assembly is also a bicameral legislature. There are 2 houses, the Senate and the House. In the Senate, we have 50 members, and in the House, we do have 120 members. They work together to pass legislation, and they also remedy legislation of locality, so maybe your county or your city with new policy that covers the entire state.
Yeah, so very important positions, and these are positions that we need to know about so that we can make an informed vote. So there's this thing called the Council of State. The Council of State. A lot of people don't know exactly what the Council of State is, but it's really like the elected executive branch of government, other than the governor and the lieutenant governor. It's akin to the cabinet that we see for the president. So in terms of the Council of State, what are the important positions in the Council of State? And can you tell us a little bit about what some of those positions are? Jasmine, we'll start with you.
Yes, so the members of the Council of State include the North Carolina Secretary of State, the State Auditor, the State Treasurer, and the Supervisor of Public Instruction. And so they really work together to ensure that our state is running efficiently and effectively. The North Carolina Secretary of State really handles our business, right? So when new business opportunities are looking to come to the state, they create the initial contracts and ensure that there's infrastructure in place for that to happen. The North Carolina State Auditor is going to overview all the workings of our government to ensure that practices are happening efficiently, effectively, and fairly. The North Carolina State Treasurer, they are the official banker of the state. They hold all of our money. They are responsible for the state funds. And so when localities need something, they are sure to know who the treasurer is. And the Supervisor of Public Instruction is going to handle education for the state.
Thank you, Jasmine. Naya, are there other offices within the Council of State that we should know about?
Yes, there's 4 other offices. You have the Attorney General, the Commissioner of Agriculture, the Commissioner of Labor, and the Commissioner of Insurance. And all of these positions each serve a 4-year term. So the Attorney General, they serve as the head of the Department of Justice, and there they provide legal representation and advice to state agencies in certain cases. And then the Commissioner of Agriculture, they serve as head of Agriculture and Consumer Services, and they pretty much work to protect the health and welfare of citizens, as well as maintaining the ability to produce food and fiber for the state. Next, you have the Commissioner of Labor, and this is one that we all might be a little bit familiar with. The woman who previously served was Sherry Berry, and you may have all seen her in all elevators across North Carolina. But additionally, this is a 4-year term, and they will serve as head of the Department of Labor, where they will work to protect and ensure the safety of North Carolina workers. And additionally, you have the Commissioner of Insurance, and they work to maintain fair pricing and practices for insurance coverage throughout the state.
So at this point, it's important to point out that I hope you notice that we are strictly nonpartisan. We haven't mentioned any candidates themselves, but this election is historic for several reasons, and one is it's historic because we have 3 African American females who are running statewide in the state of North Carolina. And of course, those are Cherie Beasley, who is running for Chief Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court, Yvonne Lewis Holly, who is running for Lieutenant Governor, and Jessica Holmes, who is running for the elevator lady to be the Commissioner of Labor. So in that regard, I think it's important to hear from especially you as young African-American females about what this means to you to see this historic election happen where you have 3 African-American women with the possibility of winning statewide races for the first time in the state of North Carolina. Anaya?
Yes, so I'll just talk a little bit about growing up. All throughout elementary school and middle school, and even a little bit of high school, I never really had representation growing up in rural North Carolina. I didn't see a lot of teachers in my positions. I didn't see a lot of affected or elected officials in those offices. And I wouldn't say it was discouraging, but I would say it was definitely hard to imagine myself in any of those positions. But as we have these 3 women who come along and make such a difference in their communities, it really means a lot, not only to people our age, college-age women, children, just being able to look at someone and say, oh, I can be that one day, and making that realistic and see someone actually come through that position, that's amazing. And I think, I was just talking to someone the other day, just telling them this is our ancestors' dreams, to be able to serve in these positions. So that's a little bit.
Wow is kind of the thing I feel, or that I felt when I went to the ballot box and I saw those names. There are also, I would like to say, there are also many candidates who identify as Black women who are running for other not statewide positions as well. So there are lots of Black women on your ballot. Be sure to research them as well. For me, this is super exciting. So in 2017, Charlotte elected the first Black woman to serve as mayor of our city. And I had the opportunity to work with her, and she used to tell me, you can be governor of this state. And at that time, it didn't seem realistic, right? Because I hadn't seen many Black women serve in statewide positions in North Carolina. And to see not 1, not 2, but 3 do it is empowering, it's exciting, it's re-energizing. And I think it's awesome that our elected officials are becoming more representative of the people that they serve.
And more reason to vote the entire ballot. When we look at the Supreme Court and we look at the Council of State opportunities for history to happen in the state of North Carolina. So as we look further down the ballot, we also see that justice is on the ballot. We say justice is on the ballot because the Supreme Court, there are 3 seats on the Supreme Court that are up, and we have several seats in the courts, in the Court of Appeals, as well as some local judges. Jasmine, tell us a little bit about what's going on in terms of justice being on the ballot, voting for judges.
Absolutely. So we are voting for our North Carolina Supreme Court justice. And so that is the highest court. The Supreme Court is the highest, the North Carolina Supreme Court is the highest court in North Carolina, right? So if you have a case and you go through a couple courts, you get to that appellate court and you need one more ruling, you're headed to the North Carolina Supreme Court. And so the justice that presides over that is the leader of that court, and we are electing them. And so we really need to pay attention to what law has looked like in the past and what we want it to be in the future.
Yeah, so we have to vote the entire ballot, as I said, because yes, when you go to court, you want justice, not just us. If you know what I'm saying here. Also some other local offices that we're working our way down the ballot. Local offices that we need to know about. Anaya, tell us a little bit about some of those, especially here in Durham County.
Yes, it's very important to, as we said before, vote the entire ballot. And it's very important to vote for elected officials in your county. They are the ones who know about the issues of your county and who can make changes. So first we have the Board of Commissioners, in which there should be 5 on the ballot, and there are typically 5 positions available. And then you additionally have the Register of Deeds, and you would typically vote for one of those. And this would be considered the executive branch of local government.
So we've gone up and down the ballot. We've gone from the top. We talked a little bit about the presidency. We talked about the Senate. We talked about statewide offices, and we talked about local offices. So if voters have other questions about how to vote, how to plan their vote, and who to vote for, what are some other resources out there that they can go to that will help them make an informed vote, which is what we are all about? Ms. Harrison, can you share with us some?
Yes, so one resource that voters have is the state Board of Elections, and that website would be ncsbe.gov. And they have statistics on voter registration as well as how many ballots have been submitted. They additionally have all the deadlines for early voting, in the past deadlines, voter registration, and ballot submission, as well as countdowns to dates moving forward, such as the end of early voting and the actual election day. There you can find sample ballots, so you can see what will kind of be on your ballot, as well as tracking your absentee ballot if you have submitted one, finding information on early voting, where you can vote, and how to vote by mail. So you can find all of those resources there.
And Jasmine, you actually wear several hats because you actually work with another group, and they have a voter guide. Tell us a little bit about your other group and what they are providing in terms of information for voters.
Absolutely. So I am a fellow with Common Cause North Carolina, specifically their HBCU Action Alliance. And so Common Cause is a nonpartisan organization that has tackled issues of justice, right? We want to protect democracy here in North Carolina and across the country, right? So when we see gerrymandering, when we see voter ID laws that maybe aren't the fairest, this is what Common Cause does, right? We've created a voter guide for the state of North Carolina that is comprehensive. So it's not just telling you who to vote for, but it's telling you about the candidates that are going to be on your ballot. And it can be found at ncvoterguide.org. And there are also other points of reference on that website. So you can click there and get linked to the State Board of Elections website. You can check your registration. It's a great resource.
Ladies, y'all did a wonderful job. I hope the voters out there have learned something. I hope they have been encouraged to vote the entire ballot. We want to remind voters out there that they have until the end of October, the 31st of October, to participate in early voting, which is taking place here at the Turner Law Building on the beautiful campus of North Carolina Central University. In fact, we are in the beautiful moot courtroom of the law building. And so we want to thank the law school for allowing us to come over here to have this voter education program. We also want to remind people that if they go to the polls and they encounter any problems, the names are not on the voter rolls, they're being challenged in terms of whether they are registered or not. We want to remind voters that they can just call 888-OUR-VOTE, 888-OUR-VOTE, in order to get immediate assistance from a law student or a lawyer who will help you with whatever problem you have at the polls. So voters out there, especially our students, but also, as we mentioned, in the community, get out and vote because democracy is not a spectator sport. You have to be involved in it. And we are delighted to have these two young people who are very much engaged and are encouraging our students as well as our voters to get out there and vote. So let's go ahead and do it. Thank you very much for joining us today.